Today I wanted to elaborate and continue on the last video about how do I watch games. And in this particular video, I wanted to show you how I do tactical performance analysis. This is a presentation I use with academy players who are interested in doing analysis, or people who are starting in analysis, how to write analysis, and also how to start with writing analysis in terms of Word. I'm going to talk about a few things, but first of all, what is tactical performance analysis? And it basically is the ability to understand tactical trends within a game related to physical events in that particular game. So in the last video I spoke about pressing. So how of the pressing you can see on the video. Why do you press, and how do you do that physically? So can you see that on the pitch, which players are moving, which players are standing, which players are progressing, and so forth. It's also looking at tactics, game principles, and philosophies. Those are different. Tactics can vary from game to game. Game principles is something you wanted to see throughout the game, so something you on a longer period you can judge on. And philosophy is something, how do you want to play? What's the mindset behind the principles of play? And this can vary from coach to coach. Is it attacking? Is it offensive? Is it counter-attacking football or defensive football? These things can vary, as you can see, in different coaches and different aspects of the game. So some are always present, and some are just present in phases. So that's, you have to make a distinction, like I said. If you watch a game, divide it up into different periods so you can see the change or the continuity of a game. First of all, it's very important to prepare yourself. And what I mean by read articles and interviews and what the coach has said and players have said and players injured, suspended, read about the context. What's the context of the game? Is it an important game? Is it not so an important game? What are the positions of the teams? Who is available? Who isn't available? What have the coaches said? What's on the line? What is the weather like? All these different aspects of context can really give you a better feel of what the game is about and what you can expect. For example, you can look at the lineups and look at the last 4 or 5 games and what has changed, what has been the same, how they are coping with injuries or suspensions, and how will it affect their performance against another opponent. So, for example, you can play a 4-3-3 at one game, and the next game your opponent is stronger. You will opt for a 5-3-2 or something 5-4-1. That also changes on the opponent depending on how strong your team is. Also, think about it by yourself. What do you expect from the game, and what have other experts think of the game? So try to be objective as possible. It's never possibly 100% objective, of course, but try to be as objective as possible. What has happened? Stick to the facts. What has happened? What is going to happen? What are the stats saying about the game, the projected expected stats, and what do you think will happen on basis of earlier games? So head-to-head stats will definitely help you in preparing yourself for the game. And make sure that you have your whole game to your disposal when you're analyzing a game. I know it's very easy with the likes of Instat and Wisecout and YouTube and other platforms providing clips, and they are great, but they're also selective. So they are automatically coded, for example, by Wisecout and Instat, and they have a certain seconds which they code an event, and sometimes something is interesting happening before or after, but you won't see it because you're just looking on that 20-second clip. So make sure you have the whole game to your disposal of at least half of if you're watching a particular game. So that's very important. So what I think phase one of writing a tactical performance analysis is the lineups. So what do the lineups say on paper, and who is playing, and what does that tell you about the playing style? Let's head to the lineups. I think in the next video I will talk about positions, roles, and zones of the pitch, but lineups are usually a starting point for a team. So how they start in possession. But how does the team play in possession of the ball, out of possession, out of possession, in the transition phases? So make sure you are not only focusing on the lineups, but also the formations during the game, who is playing where. So that has to do with the roles, because um, formations and position are just starting points, but looking at the roles, that's different. That's how a player acts on the field in relation to his opponent and his teammates. You can also look at, does the lineup correspond with the earlier games, like I said, and how does the opponent line up? It's very important to see how the opponent lines up. If you are playing the same formations, same style of football, you can expect a similar strength and weakness analysis. If they are different, you have to see, okay, is it a more defensive approach the opponent has or more attacking approach? How are we going to break that, or how are we going to defend against the threat that they pose to our team? So that's something to think about. So if you write something, don't just assume everyone knows what you're writing about, but everything you say you have to claim, and that's very important. Phase two, I would say game phases. That's very important to focus on. There are four phases: attacking phase, defending phase, the transition from attack to defense, and transition from defense to attack. Those are the four phases you will tend to look at and try to see what's happening there for your own team, but also for the opponent. I'll talk about formations already, with the ball and without the ball, and start observing the first 15 minutes. How does a team build up? How do they attack? How do they do it in defense? And how do they do it in transition phases? Are they playing directly, or are they playing a passing style of play? Is that a direct passing style? Is it yeah, do they use a lot of passes to get into their position they want to be? Or yeah, it's a lot of vertical passing. Key key elements of your analysis will start in that first 50 minutes. And what I say, then the 50 minutes after, you're going to see, are they doing the same things, or are they doing other things, and how and why, and try to describe that for every 50-minute period. And then you can see the tactical trend, or where they have to change and why they have to change. Because if you have a certain attacking style of play, where you play with three strikers, for example, a very ludicrous example, but and you have a defensive midfielder going up the pitch. How does the opponent deal with that? And if the opponent can deal with that, how do you change and how do you react to that? And that's something you have to recognize also during a game. Also very important is, after events, is it still the same? So not only the style of play has impact, of course, but also goals, substitutions, cards, halftime, altercations on the field. Those all the things have an impact of how you view the game and also how you analyze. Phase three of the analysis is actual analysis. What are we going to focus on? So to this point, we have described a lot. We see the game with our eyes, and what is happening. We register it and we write that down. But it's not about how they do it, because that is just describing. But there's, why does the opponent or your own team, why do they choose to do this and this and this, and what kind of effect will that have? Are they hoping to have that effect? So you can look at tactical trends within a game. I usually choose 2 or 3 tactical trends, and then yeah, there are a few trends you can look at. I have written some down: style of play, attacking and defensively, build up, pressing, counter attack, counter pressing. How is a certain player doing? I'm sure you can think of a few tactical trends yourself as well. But we tend to look at a game from these tactical trends, because then we can zoom in If we want to do on a longer period, then we have to do a few games and just focus on one topic. But because we are just focusing on one game, we are looking at 2 or 3 tactical trends. Again, if you play something, prove it. And that's also the thing. But if you say that a player goes out of position, goes wide, or goes into the channel, show it to the people. So use annotated images, screenshot, or visuals, or videos to enhance your analysis. So if you write something, show it to them. Then they can revise or review your typical analysis of that clip or that image, and then they know what you mean, how that reacts. And I stress this always to everyone. It's very important. Don't only describe what happened, but try to describe why it happened. So you're describing what happened and how it happened, but why did it happen? So and that is very important. Phase 4 is actually what I said in the last video as well, how you actually watch a game. You don't need to play on normal speed. You can. The first few I will do that, but usually the second time and the third time I will play on 1.5 speed, and second or third 2.0 speed. Always write what you're going to show and happen on that image. Introduce the teams you're watching. Not everyone is aware of the league you're describing or the teams you're describing. So, for example, if you watch a lot of Premier League and you are looking to know more about the Eredivisie in the Netherlands, because, for example, Ten Hag is likely going to Manchester United, and you want to see a little bit more about the games he has played. Obviously, the big four, big five is very it's very well known. But if you're playing against the lower teams, not everyone knows them. So it's very important to introduce them. What are they? What is the stature of the club? How are they performing? What are the key players, etc. How I do it: introduction, lineup formations, tactical trends, conclusions, or final thoughts. That's how I perceive the analysis of a tactical approach.